And how are we doing? Cool. Good morning, Ron Helwig here, presenting on Shire Silver today. I know there's a chip-in out there for people to help support my presentation of this, but I would much rather have people actually go and buy some cards from the website, which is shiresilver.com. Okay. Now, I suppose I should start with a little bit of the history of the project. It started in 1998. A friend of mine at Christmas gave me one of the first Liberty dollars. It wasn't this one, it was a $5 one, but it got me started on the road. Got me interested in learning more about the money issue, what we can do about it, how we can restore sanity to our financial systems. And then eventually I found out about this Free State Project thing, and on May 1st of 2005 I became the 103rd person to move to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project, and I haven't looked back since. That was one of the best things I've ever done. It's been fantastic and wild and exciting. If you haven't checked into the Free State Project, please do. It's awesome. We're having a great time out here. But after I got here, I started trying to figure out what it was that I was going to do. What's my focus of activism going to be? And my two big issues have always been education and the monetary system. And there's a lot of good people doing a lot of good work on education. But there hasn't been all that many people doing the money thing. So I went with the Liberty Dollar stuff, and I started to try to grow that. But we all kind of know what happened there. We actually had like 20 of us here in New Hampshire, activists, people who wanted to be out there doing something about it. We decided to get together for a meeting to plan strategies and get active, and our meeting was set for what happened to be 2 days after the raid on the Liberty Dollar. So that meeting, instead of becoming how do we promote the Liberty Dollar throughout New Hampshire, it changed to what do we do now? And we realized that there were some flaws with the Liberty Dollar model that we figured we could do better on. One of them was that it was centralized. This was, I think, the key failure of the Liberty Dollar, was that it was a centralized production and distribution system. And we're liberty lovers. We should know better than to do centralization. So that became one of the key things that we were looking for in a new model, was decentralization of production and distribution. We also, we were looking at things like, you don't want to have dollar on the actual coins and currencies, whatever. So we started to think new designs. We looked at and spent quite a bit of time researching various ways that you could run small minting operations to make your own coins. Well, after too much time looking into that, we finally all realized that that's just too expensive. You're not going to be able to have a massively distributed system producing coins like that, because the cost to just the dies themselves means that your production runs have to be in the tens of thousands of units for it to be cost effective. So it took more thinking. You know, we'd been looking at, like, instead of doing, you know, circular coins, we wanted to get away from anything that looked like government money. So we were thinking squares and rectangles, and how thin would they have to be. Eventually that led to the idea of, why not make them the size and shape of credit cards? And that's eventually what we did. And a bunch of people helped with this, the designs and everything. Bill and Ivy Walker, Ryan Marvin, Kate and Alec Muller, Jeremy Robert Furbish, Rich Tomaso, Jeremy Olson, Lelania and Shivam Ghosh. These people all helped develop the ideas, and eventually what we came up with was the Shire Silver Card, which is the actual metal, the silver and gold, is embedded inside a flexible plastic card that's the same size, the same thickness as a credit card. It may actually be a little bit thinner than a credit card, and that was what I was going for. And, you know, one of the first things you notice is this doesn't look anything at all like the government money. There's no mistaking this for anything put out by a bureaucrat. They're not coins. The other thing that we went with was grams instead of ounces, because we kicked the king out over 200 years ago. We shouldn't be using his measurement system anymore. Grams are a lot easier to calculate, a lot easier to work with, and they also make for more reasonably sized pieces. This card is worth, depending on the day, you know, $1.90 or $2. So easily usable in everyday trade. We also have, this is the 1 gram card. We also have a 5 gram card, which, you know, that's then worth approximately $10 now. When I first produced these and made them available, which was at last year's Pork Fest, and for anybody who doesn't know about it, you need to check it out. Pork Fest is awesome. Porkfest.com. Yeah, give that a look. Come. It's going to be probably over 1,000 Liberty lovers, all partying, having a great time, educating each other, and exchanging value for value at the awesome Agora Valley. Yeah, so yeah, we introduced these then, and these were $1 back then. The 1 gram, I sold them for $1, and now they're almost twice as much. That's 100% inflation in 1 year. Same with the 5s. They were $5 at the time, which was one of the nice things about when we introduced them. The 1 was about $1, the 5 was about $5. We also, I should mention, have them in gold. This is a 0.1 gram gold card, which is worth about $7 in Federal Reserve notes. It's a very thin wire of gold as opposed to the strips. Okay, one of the other things that I was looking at in the model was that we wanted to avoid the idea of numismatic value. These things should be traded just as, hey, this is a gram of silver. In fact, I don't even want them called Shire Silvers or anything like that. This is a Shire Silver card. Shire Silver is the brand, and it's it's a gram of silver. That's what I want people to think of it as. That also brings up the idea that Shire silver is a model, basically the idea of taking the metal and putting it in the laminated cards, but it's also the brand. Shire silver is basically my personal brand. But we've got something cool coming out now. Our first co-branded cards. One of the nice things that we can do with this system is it's very easy to come up with other brands, because the cards, the printing, is all just printed on a piece of paper. We come up with a design, we print it, we take a punch, and we punch out the hole, and then we insert it into the plastic laminate that comes in the right size, insert the metal, run it through the laminator. So we can easily change the design from the standard or my personal Shire Silver brand to something like a Free State Project branded card. And so these Free State branded cards, and here's some of the actual ones: a 10th gram gold, a half gram gold, and I have a 5 gram silver as well available. I don't have a 1 gram available right now. But co-branding is easy and it's cheap. $250 gets you the brand, no minimum order. So you can put out your own branded cards. I can make them for you, or we have instructions on the website at shiresilver.com for how to make your own. It's not all that hard. You need a few simple tools. You know, you need the punches if you want to do the whole thing, which basically is just a nice way that it helps you to actually feel the metal in there and gives a little distinction. You can see the metal from the front as opposed to just from the back. You need ways to measure the actual metal out. I use a ruler for the silver, and I use a little bit of a silly straw for the gold wire. Silly straws are a little bit hardier, and they're also thinner, so the gold wire fits in there better. You need a scale to weigh your metal with. This one is less than $50. I think this one was actually about $20. Just make sure that it goes to a fine enough detail. Something to cut the metal with. Here's your, $8 set of wire cutters. You need to buy the laminate material. You can get them 500 of these cards for about $15. And when you get them, they come with these carriers to feed them through the machine. This is a heavy-duty model, but you can see how small it is. And this is maybe $250. Depending on what kind of quality you want, you can get away with something much cheaper than that, possibly under $100. So your total cost to start up one of these mints, essentially, well less than $500. So that's one of the other things. The whole massively distributed thing is that anybody should be able to set up their own personal mint and start making their own under their own brand. Our guy Puke at doomsdaydevice.com, he's our artist who did the designs for all these cards and a lot of the graphics that you see on the website. Check him out. Great prices, great work. James Puke Schmill. He's one of the guys over in Keene. Been doing some great activism over there. Hell of a guy. Check him out. Give him some work. Okay, what's next? Why do we need something like Shire Silver? basically, there's a few things, like back when the revolution happened and they had their failed experiment with the fiat printed currencies. They knew that they needed to go to something more like, this. The silver, this one is just a generic bullion piece, but it has problems. It's a little heavy, it's a little big, it's awkward to work with, and the smaller coins become so small that they're hard to work with too. You can easily lose them in your pockets. You essentially have to start carrying around a coin purse. And I know most guys don't want to do that. And even, it's just too much to mess with. Nobody even likes to use pennies or nickels or dimes anymore because it's just too much of a hassle. Coins should go away. So that was one of the mistakes that the Founding Fathers made, and it's an understandable one because they just frankly didn't have the technology at the time to make something like Shire silver. So because people don't like to use coins, they went to these things. This one is a silver certificate. You can tell because it has a blue seal there. It also says silver on there. And this is a gold certificate, which you can tell because it has the red seal. The ones that have the green seal are counterfeits that the Federal Reserve puts out. No, the Mint actually, but Treasury maybe. And then, they want you to use these things. Sacagawea? Yeah, that's what they think a dollar should be when, during the founding, that was what a dollar was. So that was one of the mistakes that I think the Founding Fathers made. Another one, of course, Larry Reed, I think, was the one that mentioned it yesterday, that they fixed the ratio between gold and silver. And that is obviously going to lead to arbitrage issues, which his thing certainly covered well enough. Check it out. It should be in the archives here. It was definitely a good show. A third mistake that I think the Founding Fathers made was that they gave it a name. They named it the dollar, and by giving it the name, that's like the first level of abstraction away from, hey, this is just some silver. This is so much amount of silver. So instead of people thinking in terms of, I'm going to trade you this much silver for your product, they start thinking, I'm going to use this dollar. And as soon as enough people have accepted that they're using a dollar, then you can start changing what a dollar means. And that's where, that's the first step in destroying the money. The other thing, of course, was, since people are using the paper, they're no longer thinking of it as silver. They're thinking of it as paper dollars. So we want to avoid that. We want people to think, hey, this is a gram of silver. I'm trading you a gram of silver for your product, or 5 grams of silver, or 6 grams of silver. Another thing that has been on my mind for a long time is that trust doesn't scale. A lot of the alternative currency systems we're seeing out there, the Let's, the Ripple, they're basically trying to find ways of making trust scale. And I wish them well, but I don't think it's going to happen. It's basically some guy saying, hey, Bob, would you loan me your good name worth for $20 and then use that good faith and credit with Bob to buy something from Charlie. And that's fine on a small scale. It'll work in a small community for a while. You've got the Ithaca Hour thing. is a similar kind of deal. And it'll work in a small community with a lot of marketing and with some good people behind it pushing it, but it's not going to scale up to state or national type levels. So that's one of the other things. But when you're using metal, the actual metal, you know, there's no trust issue. You have the metal, you have the value. Oh yeah, just to give the demonstration, these things, you know, because they are designed to fit in your wallet, same size as a credit card, not an issue, real easy to use. They just slip right in, and you can put a bunch of them in there. You can carry around a lot of value in your wallet without it becoming huge. Okay. The ease of handling these things, because they are credit card sized, is actually human factors engineers they'll be able to tell you why this is the right size for something like this to be. It's the same deal. I've heard it a long time ago with packs of cigarettes. Cigarette packs could be smaller, and cigarette manufacturers could be making more money by making their packs smaller and charging a little bit higher. But if it's smaller than that, then you tend to lose it. And that's not a good thing, especially when you're talking about, you know, like a half gram of gold, which is approximately $30. You don't want to be losing that. Okay. Next on my list of things is sometimes people come up to me and they say, well, you know, that's a gram of silver, so shouldn't I be paying the spot price of a gram of silver? And that usually comes up with people who have been in the libertarian or freedom movement for a while and who have been using things like the bullion, or, you know, maybe they've got one of the old Morgans. And the problem with trying to use spot as your determinant for the price factor is it costs something to actually produce these things. It actually costs to produce these as well. It costs more to produce these than it does these, by a small amount. But the thing is that there's been so many of these produced over time, and the price in terms of Federal Reserve notes has risen so much that somebody who bought one of these, you know, 20 years ago for $5, he can sell it now for $30, and, you know, at the spot price, and just say, oh, that's fine, that's not a problem. He's already gained a return on his investment. But if you're buying a new one of these, you're not going to pay spot. You're going to pay spot plus a premium plus shipping costs, and then you're going to wait for, you know, maybe a year or two before the spot price has risen enough that you can sell it at spot and not feel like you're losing money. Same thing with the cards. It does cost a reasonable amount, I think, more than the spot value of a gram of silver in order to produce a gram silver card. So I'm hoping that people will visit shiresilver.com/MSRP and take a look at the details. I have some of the details there, not a lot, but I'll be putting more up eventually. I have it based off of live spot prices, and so you can go there and you can see what the value of all the cards is. And on the same page, I also have the spot price calculated in grams, so you can see how much of a markup it actually is. but there is a lot of value just in the fact that it's a handy card and it's available, easy to use, fits in the wallet. It'll work. It'll fit in your cash register. Good value? That's for you to decide. I hope you think so. And as far as testing, the other thing that people bring up often is, well, how do I know it's not counterfeit? Well, how do you know this isn't counterfeit either? In the over 10 years that I've been dealing with precious metals and looking into the market, I've only seen one person once ever even so much as weigh the coins. And he's recognized by the community as a bit of a flake. There is a lot of trust that people put in the coins just because, you know, your simple checks, well, does it weigh right? Does it look right? Does it sound right when you drop it on a hard surface? Those are easy tests, but none of them are foolproof. Even weighing it and measuring the volume is not foolproof. The only way to really be sure that something like this is not a counterfeit is to destroy it. There's acid tests that can prove that this is what it claims to be. Similar deal with the cards. You can look at it, you can feel it, you know, it seems to be legitimate just by looking at it, and to a certain extent enough people are going to trust it that it will work, just like with the coins and just like with the paper. People trust it, and they will. But I'm also expecting and hoping that there's going to be enough people out there that are going to be suspicious and want to verify it. And I say, go ahead. Take a cigarette lighter and just light the plastic on fire. It will burn away. The metal will remain unharmed. Take it into any jeweler and they can test it. They can verify. And if cards get out there that aren't the real thing, people will find out and they'll spread the word. That's why I make sure that these things are done right. Okay. Another thing about the counterfeiting idea. The market currently is too small for it to be worthwhile to do counterfeiting. We don't, you know, we're a new business, started up essentially at PortFest last year, and we're still just starting to try to sign up merchants. So right now we don't have a lot of places where you can use it, but it is expanding all the time. But because the market is so small, there's really no place you can go to try to pass off fake ones. It's not worth it. You know, people will try to fake a $20 Federal Reserve note because they can take that anywhere and use it. We're hoping that you know, we'll be growing fast and that eventually the market will be big enough that it will be at least roughly economically feasible to counterfeit, but it's still going to be easier to counterfeit something like this and more worthwhile, or, you know, something like this is still going to be easier to counterfeit and more cost effective. Okay, let's see, I should look for questions. Got to go to a different tab here to do this. Okay. All right. You could use that for seeds too. We are looking into making a copper card. Then we would have the full money metal spectrum. If you go to your periodic table of the elements, there's one column that it has just copper, silver, gold, and then everything else is radioactive and doesn't last long, that's the money metals. Those are the three metals that throughout history have been the ones most used as money. So we are looking at expanding into a copper card, and it would be probably just a solid piece. We're hoping that we can make it scored so it can be broken apart like the old pieces of 8. This would probably be a pieces of 5 or pieces of 10. It's possible we could get it ready by PorcFest. Maybe. I don't know. That might be pushing it. But, you know, that's still going to be, it's going to be easier to use than, this is one of the Liberty Dollar copper pieces. You know, it's isn't going to fit in your wallet as well as this will. In fact, I've been carrying this one around in my wallet for over a month. Okay. Why is it bad to save a Shire silver card instead of using it for currency? It's not bad to save it. Sure, save it if you want. Hi, Lauren. Well, but they're intended to be used as active trade devices. They're designed for barter. I don't know if you want to use words like sales or commerce, because government might not like you using those words like coin. They think that they own the right to the word coin, and that it has specific legal meanings. But you know, if you're looking for silver as an investment, I'd probably be going to someplace like Del Valley Silver or AOCS or Northwest Territorial Mint. Peter Schiff has his precious metals place, Europec Metals, I believe, and they'll have somewhat better prices for buying bulk silver and gold, but it's not as good for use in trade, at least in my opinion. These are they're easier to handle, less likely to deteriorate, they're protected in the plastic, they fit in your wallet. Save them if you want. They actually, because they're so thin and they're easy to hide places, slip them into books, whatever. Slide them down holes in the wall if you want. Okay, we need to mint our own silver currency. Yes. Yes, anybody should be able to mint their own. Back on the counterfeiting thing, yeah, it is a little more costly to counterfeit these things. There's more effort, especially if you want to try to make them look like my brand. That's something that you'll have to put some time in to actually try to copy. I'm not a big fan of intellectual property, but I do believe that in a truly free market, we would have some kind of brand protection, because trying to copy someone else's brand is fraud. But the model, the idea of making these cards, the process for doing it, that's free. Anybody can do it. I've got instructions up on the website. Look under the About Us, Make Your Own in the menu. Okay. We can go to other sizes, like one of the guys yesterday who was talking about doing it as like some of the Australian money is, it still looks kind of more like the old bills, but it's made out of plastic. His idea was using even smaller amounts of gold, So we can take something like the 0.1 gram, and we could easily go to a 0.05 gram. That would put that at about $3.50. Go to a 0.01 gram. That would be, less than $1 probably. So that's totally doable. I also have at least one guy who's telling me that he wants to have a full gram of gold in a card. And if the market wants it, eventually it's going to get it. Let's see. Bitcoin, yeah. Yeah, Bitcoin and some of the other online precious metal-based transaction systems. I've had a lot of interest in those. Combining something like the Bitcoin software with something like Pecunix may be worthwhile. I still think that in a system like that, what we really need yet, the software for the P2P distributed accounting, Bitcoin is showing that that's pretty much there. Backing it with the precious metals, well, gold money and gold grams and Pecunix and these other ones that are out there, they're showing that the market wants the precious metal backing. The one piece that I think is missing, and if somebody can develop it, I think they can make some money, is a distributed but authenticable warehousing system. So that you don't have all of your backing for your online currency in one location that the feds can swoop in and take everything. And there needs to be some way of authenticating it. And this is all getting aside from the Shire silver thing, but it's one of the things that I keep wanting to bring up because I'm hoping somebody will take it on and do it. And if you want to be redeeming your online currency for Shire silver, hey, that's a win. Okay. Silver swans and golden sols. Yeah, marketing. People can and should come up with their own branding. I would love to see a bunch more people producing their own products under the Shire Silver model. Wallet voting. Those guys, the Freedom's Phoenix, Ernie Hancock, and that crew, Drew Freeman is, I think, one of the guys behind it. Thankfully, they've at least admitted that they got the idea from me. Their idea is kind of interesting too. They have a similar deal where they're laminating cards with information, but they're, instead of using, the straight metal, they're using the pre-64 US coins. And I've seen a couple of the dime ones, and they're kind of cool. They're, I think, a little bit thick, so they're maybe not as good for putting in your wallet, but you can certainly carry some of them around. The other sort of issue I have with them is that because they are using the pre-64 government coins, they are still tied into the government, and so it's still a little bit of promotion of government stuff there, whereas the Shire Silver, totally agarist. We have no government interaction whatsoever. There's no taxation. You send me the money, I send you the cards. That's it. Let's see. Yeah, embedding the pre-64 coins in the cards greatly reduces the counterfeiting problem. I don't actually see how, because uh, those can be counterfeited just as easily. It would probably be more widely recognized, yeah, especially outside the agorist spheres. Yeah, there's a point there, but it's the government money, and it's not the pure metal. It's the coin metal. It's the 90% silver, whereas this that's 24 karat 999 fine gold. You can pull that out. You can use it for whatever. The silver 999 fine. That's pure silver in there. Pull it out. Use it for whatever you want. Probably not for that colloidal stuff. That might be a little tricky. I would probably, if I was going to do that, I would try to find, get it directly from a source where you can, it's not going to have the plastic in it at all, whatever. Next. Sure hope there will be some Q&A. Anyone know if Ron has his chat box open? Yeah, Kevin. I'm flipping back and forth between the two web pages to be able to do that. Public key, private key, RFID chips, and the silver and gold certificates. The problem with using any kind of RFID, and one of the other things that we've tried to avoid here, is having any kind of number on these. You should be able to pick up any Shire Silver 1 gram silver card, and it's the same as any other. There should be no difference whatsoever. If you've got 5 of them, they're all the same. And the reason for that is that then there's no tracking. There's no way that like a prosecutor can say, well, because you had this one card and we know because of the number. And I would especially avoid RFID. I don't think RFID is going to fly in the Liberty community, because so many people are against the idea that you can be tracked. So yeah, I'll avoid that. Do you guarantee personally or via a corporation that the metal content is as stated on the card? Well, yeah, you've got my personal guarantee, but even more importantly, there's going to be enough people out there that are going to actually do the test, and I hope people do. I would love to see videos of people burning the cards apart and doing the test. Real easy to do. In fact, the first time I did it, I was at a bar, and one of my friends said, he was outside smoking, and I was out there just hanging, and he said, hey, how do you test that? And I said, give me your lighter, and I burned it right there. And I hadn't actually tested at that time whether the metal was going to be okay. I'd done the math and looked up the melt values and all that, but yeah, it came out no problem. And Dave Ridley actually did a quick Ridley-O that evening. So if you look back through his channel, youtube.com/Ridley Report, you should be able to find it there. And that was actually one of the earlier prototypes that we had been doing back then. Okay. Who supplies the gold and silver? I get it from a jewelry supply company, riogrand.com. They're out of New Mexico. The links are on the website, on the Make Your Own page. I believe it will take you actually right to the it should. Let's see. You can actually test that right now, live. Yes, the links that are on the Make Your Own page take you right to the page that shows the exact version of the stuff that I use. If you call it that, you're a domestic terrorist. Oh, yep. Okay. Distributed storage. That's the nut to crack. Good, good. I'm glad other people are thinking about that now. Nick Seorsa and Drew Phillips will be talking on their alternative next hour in the Peaceful Evolution channel. I'm probably going to be watching that one. Woohoo! Yay, more orders! I love orders. I'm going to be able to eat tomorrow. Alright. Has the Shire silver been audited? I don't really see a reason why it needs to be audited. Basically, I have no stock, other than stuff that's in current production now to go out to paying customers. There's no warehouse here. I'm not warehousing anything. I'm not a bank. I'm just a manufacturer, essentially. I manufacture a trade device that contains precious metals, real value. So there really isn't any need for auditing as far as I can tell, other than people testing the cards that they get in trade or by buying them directly from me. I hope that answers that question. Hi, David Voluntarius Morris. Love some of these names. Wouldn't it take a metallurgist? Nope. Most jewelers, they have the equipment and the acids that they need to do that, because people are going to be walking in all the time with their grandmother's ring that they inherited, that they need to and they need to check them. They need to be able to see, what is the actual value of this. Plus, the testing kits themselves are not all that expensive anymore. 150, 200 years ago, testing kits were a lot more rare, and there were a lot fewer people doing them. But as always happens over time, the prices for things fall. At least in terms of real value. Okay. What is the total gross weight of silver and gold cards you've introduced into circulation to date? I actually don't know. I've sold, I think, about $10,000 in what was current value. Like last year's PorkFest, I sold about $1,000 worth. That $1,000 worth is now worth probably about $2,000. I did have one big order of $4,600 that happened about 6 months ago, and so the prices then were a lot lower. Yeah, I don't know. I would guess, in the 10 to 15,000 range in Federal Reserve note value. And I have no idea of the gross weight of the actual mass that I've produced. That's actually an interesting point. I'm not keeping track. There's no database other than the web orders, which I am planning on deleting web orders after a certain amount of time after they've been fulfilled. So if for some reason some thug decides they want to come in and try to see who I've been dealing with, sorry, no records. I believe in privacy. How much am I bringing to PorcFest? I really don't know right now. I have put out a proposal for a loan, essentially, to see how much I can get produced before PorcFest. The Free State branded cards, there should be about 1,000 of the 1 gram silver cards, and there's like 100 of the 10th gram gold cards, and I forget how many, like around 50-ish of the 5 gram silvers, and not many at all of the half gram golds. I think like 15 of those. Those are in production now and should hopefully be available soon. I think they're going to be available from the Free State Project website, freestateproject.org. But if not, contact me or contact Chris Lawless. He's the one that made sure that the Free State Project co-branded cards are actually there, that they're going to be produced. Oh, and about the co-branding, as well as making your own cards, I can make them for you with your own branding on there, logo, your slogan, and the website URL is down here. We can do them up with your design on the front, and on the back I have, this is the URL to go to find out what the value is, the current value based on the spot price. It's my MSRP, which is my suggested price. It's not what you have to use. I'm not dictating anything. And then over here is just a little thing basically saying Shire Silver produced this card. So I can produce cards for you if you don't want to get into, if you say you like the idea, you want to do your own, but you're not sure about it, don't want to invest in the startup costs, I can get you started. And if it takes off, great. Get your own mint set up, start producing your own. That would be fantastic. I want to see a bunch more people doing their own, because just like with the war on drugs, enough people doing this, they can't stop it. It will be pointless for them to even try. And that, to me, is the real protection from the JBTs, the jackbooted thugs. It's too late. There's nothing they can do about it. The government control over the monetary system is over. It's just a matter of time. Yeah. Okay. How do you certify the mass and purity measures? And I occasionally take a piece into a jeweler just to make sure that what I'm actually getting from Rio Grande is actually the real deal. And then as I cut each piece, I weigh it out. Here's a raw strip of the silver, and I weigh it out. This one came out on this to be 1.01 grams, and I always strive to make sure that they're at least 1.00. And because of the accuracy of this scale, 1.01 could mean 1.005 to 1.015. But I always try to make sure that they're at least slightly over. Approximate cost of production per card. In my formula, I use 24 cents per card. The paper that I print out, I figure about 10 cents per card. The laminate material, you can probably get it down to 5 cents per card. And then the actual, there's shipping costs to get the stuff shipped in. There's the cost to pay somebody like Puke to design the cards, and then there's my time to produce each card. I have gotten to the point where producing the cards, I can do a card in well less than a minute. Is the product stamped with an embossed seal certification? Nope, because that costs more and that would raise the price of it. And at this point, we really can't afford it. We want to try to keep the price as low as we can. And that's pretty much, I believe, all the time we have. So I'll leave it at that and remind you all to visit the site, shiresilver.com. Check it out. Especially look into making your own co-branding. We can do that for you. And have fun.